Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? I'm excited about this morning or whenever you get a chance to be able to see this. I just wanted to come on, man, and do a check-in. We did something this month, which is new for us. We did something this month called the Book of the Month. And the book of the month that we chose for this month is a book entitled Life Beyond Fear. And so, what I wanted to do is really, again, just come on real quick with you all and just have a little quick conversation. This is my book. If you haven't got yours, see if you could be able to see. No, you ain't gonna be able to see that title. But this is my Life Beyond Fear book. The actual cover, I personally don't rock with the plastic cover that goes over the book, but this is my book. And so what I wanted to do, I wanted to just do a real quick check-in and really just give you something that I have pulled from the book so far. So for those that are coming on, if you haven't gotten your book already, make sure you get your book. The information is in the show notes, so you can be able to check it out, get the link, get your book. You can either order you a hard copy, or they do have it where you can be able to get a digital copy as well. And so, on this book, in this book, Life Beyond Fear, this is what we're reading and going throughout this month. And I'm telling you, even though I have read this book before, have heard this preached, this is actually a book that my bishop has that he wrote some time back. And I believe that it's important for the season and the time that we're in. And I believe that this is something that God actually wanted us to be able to dive into. And so this book, Life Beyond Fear, again, you want to make sure that you get it. But I'm gonna go ahead real quick because again, my objective was not to be on here very, very long. But I just want to talk about really the first chapter. First chapter, I believe, is very, very powerful. And so I want to kind of read it. So the first chapter, the title of the first chapter is Overcoming Fear by Faith. It gives a scripture context which comes out of First John chapter 5 verses 4. And this is what it reads: for whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. So throughout this book, throughout this first chapter, it gives unto us these different contexts that allows us to be able to see how we can be able to do and overcome fear by faith. And then it goes into some other major pieces that I believe is very important for us to be able to see. And so one of the things that I want to point out, a couple of things that I highlighted that kind of like jumped out to me. And prayerfully it'll also you have some things, and you have some things that you have seen or heard or read while you were reading this book, that was giving you some insight and giving you some tools to be able to do this thing called overcoming this thing called fear. So this is one of the things that stuck out to me. The devil gains strength through our guilt. Guilt stems from sins, transgressions, and iniquity. So a lot of the times the enemy, what he does is he uses, when we do something wrong or when we feel like we have thought something wrong, whatever that context might look like, whenever we are doing something in that context of sinning, the devil uses that as a way to be able to gain strength when we, I would say, linger in this thought process, when we're walking and lingering into this thought process of what we have done wrong or what we did not accomplish or what we did not walk into, or even sometimes, being very honest, what we have failed at. And so he uses that as a strength context for him to be able to put on guilt on that person, guilt on us, so that we can be guilty. And then we feel a certain type of way that, and then now we are starting to walk in this context of where he can use that to be able to utilize for our for fear. So then it's like fear of doing something because you don't want to do it wrong, because last time when you messed up, you did it. It's like it's this process of things, right? So this is what I want to do. As I was reading through chapter one, there was a couple thoughts or questions that came to mind that I want to kind of present to us in this conversation. And it hit on this piece of our conversation throughout this first chapter. Because one of the things that my pastor taught, and even where we can see throughout scripture, is this context of faith is saying something, doing something, giving something. Is these three major things. Faith is saying something, doing something, giving something, because faith is an action. Faith is it should make you do something. There should be some form of action that comes with when you're saying that you are doing something by faith, right? So because of this context, the first question that I wrote down, or the first thought that I asked myself, is what am I saying? What is my confession? Do I repeat these things in reference to that keep me in a certain position? Because again, faith is saying something. So what I'm communicating to myself, what things I'm saying about myself or about situations, that also has a connection point to if I'm afraid or not. So if I keep saying, man, I'll never be able to accomplish that, when things happen, then when things happen that might look like this, or might kind of go the way that you were communicating, it confirms the thought that keeps you now in fear. So again, what am I saying? What am I communicating out of my mouth? This is a major part for me. And then I connected this to this next statement: is, does my actions match my conversation? So if I'm saying, for example, you know what, I'm going to be the greatest, da 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 da. Or, I'm going to make sure that I'm accomplishing this, and this, and this. Do I have action that connects to that statement? Or am I just having conversation? Now, we can all probably attest and say that there are some times where we have seen people, or have been in conversations with people, that they have a good conversation. They talk a lot. You know what I'm saying? They, they talk about all the things that they're going to do, or where they want to be, or what they want to accomplish, but you don't see any action that connects to their conversation. And so what ends up happening is, a lot of times, the reason why there's no action that's connected to that conversation is because it's good conversation, because really in their heart, that's probably what they really want to accomplish. But in between my conversation and the action, sometimes is a fear. It's a fear that stops me from actually starting to walk in what I'm communicating. So what I'm pushing my own self to do is, what I'm saying, I create action to go to it, or to be able to accomplish it. So if I say, for example, which I am, every Friday, because we're going to be doing a book of the month every month. So every Friday, I'm going to come before you, and we're going to have a conversation about the book, some thoughts or things that I pull out of the book. And I really want to know what you're pulling out of the book as well. So then, because this is a part of what I'm speaking, this is a part of my conversation. It's not just a great idea, but it's a part of my conversation. Now, what I have to do is make sure that I have action steps that go with what I'm communicating. I'm using this in the context of the podcast, right? But there's things that we say in our personal lives that we have to be able to do the same. And sometimes it's not big things, sometimes it can be small things, but it's things that we have to connect action to conversation. So whatever we're saying, be a doer of what you're communicating, which also will help us, because sometimes we say things that we actually know we're not going to do. But if we're saying, listen, to overcome this context of fear, I'm going to speak things that I want to do, and I'm going to actually start walking in them. I'm going to create action steps to be able to actually walk in, so that I can have the type of outcome, the type of resource or walkthrough that I really want for my life. This is what I'm saying when it comes to this context. So here's the last one, and then I am done. Is this: what are you giving in response to what you're saying and doing? I'm going to say it one more time. What are you giving in response to what you're saying and doing? Remember, I said faith is saying something, doing something, giving something. So, what are you saying? What are you doing? Now, here's the last piece: what are you giving? Now, what I mean by what are you giving, I'm not talking about only monetary stuff. I'm not talking about just your money. That's a context, but I'm not talking about this specifically when it comes to this. Understand that when I'm communicating, again, using this example, when I'm communicating that every Friday that I'm going to come on and we're going to have a conversation about what we're reading in these books, that means, again, there's an action that comes with that. That means that every Friday I have to show up. And then when it means that I'm showing up on every Friday, there's also something that I have to give for this to happen. So that means I have to give my time, because now I got to make sure that I'm reading this book. It's not that I'm just talking about a good book. No, I have to make sure that I'm taking time to read the book. I have to make sure that I'm taking and setting aside time for me to be able to come before you and have these conversations. These are all things that I have to do or have to give so that I can be able to do what I said. You see how all these are connected? So my conversation has action, and my action is going to require me to give something up. It's going to require me to give something. So in this day to day for you, as you go throughout this weekend, enjoying your weekend, and preparing yourself for Monday, for the podcast on Monday, I want you to do this for your own self. And I want you to ask yourself, think about what you're saying throughout the day. Think about what you want to accomplish. Start communicating that, but also, here's the key, but also create action to it and ask yourself honestly, what am I willing to give away? What am I willing to give so that I can be able to accomplish this? What am I willing to give so that I can be able to walk in this? What am I willing to give so that I can effectively have the type of action or the life that I want based upon my conversation, based upon what I'm communicating? So, this is all just from chapter 1. This conversation is all just from chapter 1. And so we're going to continue to read. And again, if you have not gotten your book already, make sure that you get your book. Again, it's in the show notes so that you can be able to grab your book and start this journey as well. And then I got another book for next month, and that I cannot wait for us to get in and dive into. That might actually take us a little bit longer than a month. But we're going to continue to dive in, because I believe one of the major ways that we're able to transform our lives is we have to transform our thought process. And the way that we transform our thought process is we have to engage in conversation, but also, most importantly, we have to grab the knowledge, the information, the tools to be able to have the type of life that we want for our lives. So I love you all. Y'all have a great Friday, and I'll see y'all on Monday at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, right here on the Focus on Greatness podcast. I love you all. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your family. Take advantage of your time, and we'll talk later. Bye-bye.